Hey folks, it's Autumn from the blog atraditionallife.com, and today I'm going to walk you through and show you my favorite stand mixer for a small kitchen. Now, my kitchen here in the mountain cottage isn't tiny, but if you know anything about it, you know I have all open upper shelving, which means I only have my lower cabinets for storing away kind of cluttery, ugly tools, kind of like a stand mixer. And so I have to be very thoughtful and very careful with what I let into my kitchen, or I very quickly run out of space. So in this Bosch stand mixer review, I'm going to walk you through the mixer itself, but I'm also going to show you some of the things I love to make. I use this mixer so much, partly because it's also dual purpose. It's a mixer bowl and a blender attachment on one base. I am going to show you why I love it, things I like to create with it, and kind of give you a picture of what this machine is and what it could do for you in your own homestead kitchen. Your Bosch base is going to come with two basic attachments. Now there actually are more that you can buy. They're add-ons. You can get a food processor. You can even get a meat grinder for this thing, but more on that later. So the initial thing you're going to get is your mixing bowl. So this holds 6.5 quarts or 6 liters, and it comes with two types of attachments. So the first is just your dough hook. This is wonderful for pre-kneading your dough. If you don't add in all your flour, hold back 1 or 2 cups, this will knead your dough into perfection, releasing that gluten strand so much faster. It also comes with a wire whisk, and this is wonderful for things like making whipped cream, butter. I love making creamed honey, and I'll walk you through some of those things later, but the whisk is really handy to have for a lot of things as well. Of course, there's a lid cover, which is wonderful, especially if you're making butter in here. When the solids separate from the buttermilk, things start to splatter. It's so nice to have that lid to keep everything contained so you don't make a mess all over your kitchen. The second attachment is the blender. Now the blender is actually quite powerful. I will use it for a lot of things in the kitchen. Truth be told, I probably use the blender more than I use the bread mixer. And it's not super big compared to some blenders that are on the market, but it holds 50 ounces, which is around 6 to 7 cups, 11.5 liters, and it is quite powerful. So it's not as strong as some other, like a Vitamix or some other blenders out on the market, but I use this for so many things, and it's a little powerhouse, a little workhorse that never stops giving. One of the things I love about the Bosch is that it's so compact. Now, of course, you want to store the blender separately because obviously that gives you a lot of extra height, but I love that the mixer fits so tightly to the base, and it's just a little rectangular space is all you need to store this machine. It's a Cadillac. It keeps going and going. I was actually raised in a farmhouse where my mom had one of these, and she used it for years and years and years, never had to replace it. These machines are built to last and keep going. Right now, Bosch has a sale on in honor of Mother's Day. So whether you want to treat yourself or put out a little hint to somebody that this is something you would love for your homestead kitchen, you can go below. There's a link there, and that will take you to the sales page. And this sale runs till May 15th at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I would recommend taking advantage of this while you can. So in this Bosch stand mixer review, I don't want to just talk about it. I want to bring you into the homestead kitchen and show you what I actually like to make with it. So let's have some fun with this. Whenever I'm making bread or some sort of dough and need to save time on the kneading process, I will measure in my wet ingredients and most of my flour, but hold back about 2 cups. And then I will throw the cover on place and let this machine run and knead my dough for me to strengthen and release the gluten strand. It doesn't matter if I'm making sourdough bread. It doesn't matter if I'm making yeast bread, dinner buns, if I'm making bagels. This machine will knead your dough for you like a pro. And once it's finished and the dough is smooth and elasticy, I turn it out, and by hand I work into the remaining 1 to 2 cups. The dough hook itself obviously is mostly just good for kneading dough. So if you're doing anything else other than, I would use that for cookie dough, but when you want something like whipped cream or make homemade butter or some of those things, you want to change over to the wire whisks. And I actually find things whip up faster with this machine because you have double duty. You've got 2 whisks going at whatever's in your blender. So I actually use the whisk quite a bit. And let me walk you through some of the things I will make with it. The first is whipped cream. You can whip up fluffy cream in no time in this machine. The only thing you need to watch for is it whips it so vigorously. You need to be careful you don't turn it into butter by accident. Obviously, if you can make whipped cream in this machine, you can make butter. So I love to make butter here. If you go over to my blog or browse here on the YouTube channel, you will see that I use this a lot. And yes, I do use it for making butter. It does a beautiful job of separating the fats from the buttermilk. Something else I really love this machine for is I will make whipped honey or creamed honey. My man is a beekeeper, and so every fall I take some of that honey and I will whip it up in this machine. And what it does is it breaks down the crystals within the honey and it creates a really white, creamy, very thick honey, essentially. So I also have a tutorial on the YouTube channel if you want specifics on how to do that. I'll try to remember to link to some of the videos below here for you. Something I actually love to do in the Bosch mixer is make mashed potatoes. This machine will whip your potatoes into fluffy perfection. No lumps, no bumps in it, just creamy, delightful fluff. I love using the mixing bowl for preparing stuff in my kitchen, but truth be told, I probably use the blender more, and not just for preparing food, I also use it in my home preserving. So let me walk you through a list of things I will make in my kitchen blender attachment. First one obviously is smoothies. You can create delicious smoothies with banana and milk and frozen fruit. Very easy to whip up in any kind of blender, right? The second thing I often will make in here is condiments. This blender makes a perfect, thick, delightful mayo. It doesn't work things too hard, but it works them enough that you just get a really thick, creamy, homemade mayonnaise that's really healthy. I also make salad dressings, vinaigrettes, homemade condiments, all that stuff you can whirl up in your blender, and it emulsifies things really well. I even have a lotion recipe that I will make in this blender with oil and beeswax. Something else that often interests people who are gluten-free is that you can take rolled oats, you can take buckwheat, millet, flaxseed, all those little seeds. You can actually create a very fine fluffy flour with them in your kitchen blender as well. This Bosch machine is strong enough, and often if I don't have oat flour on hand, I will throw rolled oats in there, blend them up, and it will create a really lovely light flour. Best of all though, in my mind, is that you can use your blender to speed up the canning process when you are working with, especially I do it with apples and tomatoes. So with both of those, are they both fruits? Fruit and vegetable. I will go ahead and cook them up, get them really hot, cook those peels down until you're kind of just left with a mushy mess. And then I will send my tomatoes through the blender. I don't pull out seeds. I don't remove peels. I don't even take out the cores. I just throw everything in that stock pot, cook it down, let it cool a bit, and then you can whirl it through your blender and it will create a beautiful, thick, either like tomato juice type thing, or then you can go ahead and cook that down and create a really thick tomato sauce. I actually have a canning course. I will leave a link below to that where you can go to learn how to do this properly in your kitchen. But I also do the same thing with my applesauce. Have and core the apples, throw them in a stock pot with a little bit of liquid in the bottom. You can use something like elderberry juice, apple juice, or something else if you want to infuse your applesauce with something healthy. And then after everything's cooked down to mush, I will just run that through this little blender, and it actually works. It purees everything into a smooth, creamy applesauce, and then you can cook it down more if you want, or you can just can it up as is. When it comes to the homestead kitchen and a from scratch type of kitchen, I actually think the Bosch is the best stand mixer for a small kitchen. It's small enough you can easily tuck it under and out of way in a kitchen cupboard, unlike a really tall KitchenAid. It's easy to pull out, it's easy to put back. Now we've talked about all the pros though, let me walk you through some of the cons. One of the cons that you will most often hear with the Bosch mixer is if you overfill the machine, there are little slots here and here so that if you need to pull out this part and clean it, these little metal pieces will slip through. But these sometimes, I especially find when I'm making butter, if I overfill the machine, stuff will run down in there and it will come out the bottom. You can see this is well loved and well used. But that is one of the downsides that people find, or sometimes even occasionally if you're whipping up a really wet bread dough, it will get in there. That is something that I don't love about it, something that I could do without. The other thing that is a little bit tricky is if you lose your cap cover for the blender attachment area, the bowl mixer won't work. So if that cover is missing, you will have to buy another one before you can use your mixer. Might even be a good idea to keep two on hand just in case that happens if you have children who like running away with things, as most children do. We haven't yet exhausted what you can do with this Bosch machine. You can actually get a food processor. I really want one of these. It's on my bucket list because it's wonderful for slicing and shredding cabbage for making sauerkraut. So I make tons of it in the fall. I'm usually chopping all that by hand, but my mother-in-law has the food processor and she shreds all of her cabbage through it for making her homemade sauerkraut. I want it. It's on the list, and one day we will bring it into the kitchen here, and you can use that for so many things. Another attachment that is on my bucket list is you can get a meat grinder attachment. I had no idea this even existed until we went over to help some friends cut up and process a pig they had to butcher. They had an attachment on their Bosch. Now it's not huge and you wouldn't want to process tons of meat with it, but if you just need to grind up a little bit of pork or even chicken breasts, you can make your own chicken burger that way. We love to actually take old laying hens and take the meat off the bone and grind it up and make chicken burger with it. I hope this Bosch stand mixer review was helpful for you. I don't just say things to say them. I truly believe this is a wonderful tool for the homestead kitchen. I like it that it's compact. I like it that the machines are built to last. I like that you can find replacement parts. If anything breaks, you can get a replacement parts with the Bosch mixer, with your attachments. So I love that fact about it. Not only is it built to last, but you don't have to buy an entire new unit if something breaks. So if you have comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Be sure to check out the link to that special sale. Again, it's on till May 15th, 2023 at 5 p.m. And I will also put links below to my canning course, to all the things I referenced in this video if I can remember them. Thanks for joining me, folks. I will see you next time.